Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Last Good Heist, the inside story of the biggest single payday in the criminal history of the Northeast. By Tim White, Randall Richard, and Wayne Worcester. Narrated by Eric Martin. Chapter 1. The reporter is right on time for the early cops shift, the city staff rotation that runs from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. He's sweaty and fidgeting in his button-down blue shirt. He loosens his necktie and waits for the city editor to put down the telephone. The reporter minds the heat, and this is a bad stretch. Temperatures are in the mid-90s again, the sun blinding, the air heavy enough to cut, and the newsroom of Rhode Island's Providence Journal and Evening Bulletin has no air conditioning. At 75 Fountain Street, the only concession to employee comfort is a huge, indestructible fan of heavy black metal. The thing looms over row upon row of reporters' desks and has 3 speeds. 2 are inadequate, and the third is unusable because it blows paper everywhere. The new IBM Selectrics poked up from the wells of desks built for old gray Underwoods, and all around the city editor, police and fire-scanning radios bark in discord. Teletype machines pound out wire service stories in contrary staccato rhythms. The air is a mix of cigarette smoke and funk, tainted by ink and lead fumes seeping from the adjacent composing room. In there, behind 2 swinging doors, rows of huge, noisy linotype machines turn reporters' timeless prose into pages of lead. By deadline, they will be carted off to the press room deep in the bowels of the old red-brick building and bolted to huge presses, inked, run off by the tens of thousands, and collated into the first of tomorrow morning's editions. When the presses start up, the lights always dim for a split second, and you can feel the thrum of their power through the soles of your feet. This is 1975, August 14th to be exact. The Vietnam War ended 3.5 months ago. President Richard M. Nixon has resigned, but his Watergate scandal still hangs like a shroud. President Gerald R. Ford is in charge. Chevy Chase is making riotous fun of him on a new television show called Saturday Night Live. The Beatles are yesterday, but our pants are still flared, hair is shaggy, skirts are long or short, and worn with peasant blouses and long vests. Marijuana is recreational. We have mantras and think mood rings and pet rocks are fascinating. Jaws hits the big screen, and we shy from the beach. Elvis is a bloated shadow of himself, but he still draws crowds in Las Vegas. We get our music from vinyl discs, radio, and cassette tapes. Nobody knows what a cell phone is. Security cameras are so rare as to be insignificant. Cable is a type of stitch in a sweater, or something that holds up a bridge. The Internet's forerunner is barely a fetus in a California laboratory. We get our news from radio and CBS, NBC, and ABC television, and they get most of it from newspapers. Everybody reads newspapers. Everybody. And in Rhode Island, the family-owned Journal Bulletin is the primary source of all news. 6 regional morning editions, another 5 in the afternoon. That's Monday through Friday. There are Saturday editions, too, and the Sunday entries are fat enough to cause back strain. You carry too many at once. The reporters work hard and long to keep them filled with news. The result is that the newspaper has better market penetration than organized crime, and that's saying something, because for 2 decades, Providence has been the seat of La Cosa Nostra in New England, and home to the ruthless crime family of Raymond L.S. Patriarca. Until last year, the titular head of the city since 1964 was Mayor Joseph A. Durley, Jr., an old-school machine politician and a throwback to decades of Irish rule. That changed when a bright young crime-busting reformer named Vincent A. Buddy Cianci, Jr. was elected mayor. He grew up in Providence and loves its people and their neighborhoods. As a special assistant attorney general, he even tried to put Patriarca behind bars, and now he has emerged as a hope for the city's rebirth. But no matter who reigns, the mafia rules. Patriarca's name alone means patriarch, but he is so much more. He is Il Padrino, the godfather, the man who ruthlessly controls all organized crime in New England, and he has since the early 1950s, when he wrested power from Irish mobsters. He used the most traditional of tools, murder, and shifted control south to his office in Providence, leaving an underling behind to oversee Boston and territories north. Physically, Patriarca isn't a big man, about 5 feet 7 inches, but he doesn't have to be big. He's tough, powerful, smart, and unforgiving. He also is respected by the bigger, more powerful crime families in New York. Sometimes he loans them his pet hitmen as a favor. Sometimes they call on him to negotiate peace between warring factions. On his own turf, there is no negotiating. His word is law. In the mid-1960s, well after Patriarca assumed control, Boston's murderous Irish gangs renewed their infighting. They were drawing undue public attention and interfering with mafia commerce, so Il Padrino declared martial law. A couple of corpses later, a semblance of peace was restored. The FBI has for years tried to bring down Patriarca, and ranking agents in the Boston office have turned the up-and-coming leaders of Boston's notorious Winter Hill Gang, James Whitey Bulger and his henchman, Stephen the Rifleman Flemmy, into confidential informants. Like all major crooks in New England, Bulger and Flemmy do business at the Mafia's implicit behest. The FBI's gamble is that, given the thugs' tight relationship with the crime family, it is possible they can develop damning information about Patriarca's operations for federal prosecutors. In return, the feds need only turn an unofficial blind eye to Bulger and Flemmy's criminal activity. The office's pact is hardly its first. Law enforcement's need for snitches and turncoats is legendary, but this one knows no limits. The deal launches some of the most brazen, long-lasting, and far-reaching corruption in the history of the FBI. Many years from now, the arrangement will explode in scandal, but for now it is a secret and eager dance with Satan for such as Patriarca's importance. Not for nothing is his nickname the Man. He is the deceptive embodiment of carnage, corruption, and orchestrated mayhem. Crime that is big, organized, and lurid always is presumed to be his handiwork. His very name is a kind of black magic, his influence a household whisper. Most days he can be found at his vending machine and pinball business on Federal Hill, the city's bustling old Italian enclave. That's him there, the small man with a cigar clenched in his teeth, seated in a chair outside by the front door, or inside, staring out the window at a world teetering between fear of him and outright admiration. He conducts mob business from a private room in back. Wise guys know it simply as the office. A nouveau riche WASP couple on the city's patrician east side, the home of Brown University, the Rhode Island School of Design, and some of the finest colonial architecture in America, recently hosted a guinea party, a grotesquerie for the wealthy. Smug, chauvinistic guests wore costumes that were nothing but rank mockeries of Providence's dominant Italian population. They all talked like this here, called each other Goombas and Paisans, and thought they were clever and loftily apart and therefore perfectly safe, but no one ever is, not really. It is up to Patriarca. The Man's work keeps the state psyche ever so slightly off balance. There is no telling what to expect or when, especially for a reporter on the early cop shift. There are few places where reporting is more fun and routinely aggressive than Rhode Island in general and Providence in particular, and the reporter knows it. Anything can happen. Journal bulletin reporters are the state's anointed. They are ink-stained, imperfect instruments of the community. When a busload of day trippers breaks down en route to the Bronx Zoo in New York City, an irate passenger gets out and calls the newspaper first, the police second. Mostly, the reporters are gatekeepers of the day's information. If they don't report a thing, it may as well never have happened. That's a slippery, fragile kind of power. It has to be respected and handled with care. Hip shooters and reporters without ethics don't last. They are found out and move on. Those who stay joke that they're working in a kind of wild and varied theme park designed especially for them. Even the great New York columnist and author Jimmy Breslin once paid the city homage. He wrote that the best thieves in the world come from Providence because employers here have a history of underpaying their employees, so the employees have had to get good at stealing stuff. The city editor ends his phone call, looks at the reporter, and says, "Some kind of robbery this morning at 101 Cranston Street. Hudson Fur Storage, according to the directory. The police are still there. Go see what it's all about." The scene is about 10 minutes away. The building looks out of place, a red brick fortress tucked into a cityscape of modest old duplexes. For decades, number 101 had been an Armenian church, but then the hurricane of 1938 destroyed its steeple. The hulk that remained was sold and eventually refurbished as a business, Hudson Fur Storage, and later, as a sideline, something called Bonded Vault. Police are still busy inside. The reporter isn't allowed in and has to be content with interviewing people in the parking lot. It doesn't take long to put some of the facts together. 7 or 8 men, at least 2 of them armed, robbery in broad daylight, shortly after 8 a.m., untold valuables stolen. Both businesses are run by the Levine brothers. Hyman is among the throng in the parking lot with his brother Matthew, who took a rare vacation this week but returned when he learned of the robbery. The other 2 Levines, Abraham and Samuel, have been in the building all day. Valuable furs haven't been touched, but the bonded vault operation is a wreck. It is a safe deposit box business, and 146 boxes out of 148 of varying sizes have been ransacked. Hyman says he started the business many, many years ago as a kind of sideline, but Bonded Vault never advertised. A small sign in the window and word of mouth was always enough, Hyman says. The vault's most valuable asset was also what had made it so secure for years: secrecy. Until this morning, most everyone presumed the silent alarm was intended to protect just valuable furs. Providence Police Detective Harold Brookshaw, a quiet listener with a quick smile and a good poker face, knows different. A few men in the department know about the safe deposit box operation, he says, but not many. Who rented the boxes? The reporter asks Hyman Levine. Business and professional people. Who, for example? I really can't tell you that, Hyman says. You know, privacy is the whole point. How do your customers know to come here? Why not a bank? Some of them get referred to us by Citizens Bank, he says. Really? Our boxes are a lot bigger. Matthew Levine jumps in and says Bonded Vault caters mostly to coin collectors. The parking lot, it turns out, is teeming with them. Several don't have names, or, if they do, they have forgotten them, probably the heat. A couple have only first names, a surname being Costly, the reporter surmises. Charlie, a cook, says he has stored his coin collection there for 3 or 4 years. It was nothing much, he says. Just a little silver, you know. He seems awfully upset over the loss of just a little silver, and he is not alone in that. Nearby, a short, bearded man paces nervously back and forth. He says his name is Jerry. With a J, he says. For Jerome. He is annoyed and keeps looking at the front door, which is blocked by a Providence patrolman. Jerry says he has stored 2 sacks of silver coins and his wife's jewelry in one of the safe deposit boxes. Does she know about this yet? The reporter asks. What? Your wife. I just wondered if she knows yet that her jewelry may be gone. Oh, no, I haven't told her. The reporter tries another man to no avail, so he shoulders his way around to a guy standing near Jerry, but facing away, and asks, What did you have stored in there? He jerks his thumb over his shoulder toward Jerry. Like him, he says. Jewelry. Jerry and Charlie both have heard Hyman say that the vault floor is strewn deep with coins. How am I going to be able to tell mine from anybody else's? Jerry asks, his voice thin and plaintive. Charlie the cook shakes his head. Who the fuck knows? Am I right or what? Later, the reporter overhears Jerry telling Matthew Levine that he has over $100,000 in his box, which seems like an awful lot of coins. He hasn't mentioned any jewelry, so the reporter asks Matthew if he heard Jerry correctly. Matthew scowls, makes sure Jerry isn't looking, and nods. It is nearly 5 p.m. when Detective Lieutenant Pasquale Rocchio confirms what has gradually become clear. 8 crooks, and they scored big. The take, says the acting chief of Providence detectives, is easily worth $1 million, probably more. The estimated value of the loot hovers publicly at that level through countless news stories in the months to come. Local and state police investigators eventually increase the figure to at least $4 million. That's what goes into the record books. Gradually, the heist fades from public memory. In all such crimes, the value of stolen goods is tough to estimate. Any box holders hiding ill-gotten gain turn into ghosts. They eat their losses and keep their mouths shut. If any of the police are dirty, the ranks close in around them. The tarnish remains secret. Even the steel-true, blade-straight knights of law enforcement can't be precise, whether they are local, state, or federal. Unsavory truth needs time, and when federal and organized crime sources confide their final estimate of the take to 3 reporters decades later, the figure is stunning. Not more than 1 million, or even 4 million as earlier thought, but upwards, they say, of 32 million, and that's in 1975, at least $140 million today. The thugs escape with priceless estate jewelry, at least 14 silver ingots, each weighing 40 to 50 pounds, untold caches of pearls, emeralds, diamonds, rubies, and sapphires, sacks of silver and gold coins, negotiable bearer bonds, valuable collections of rare coins and postage stamps, and a hoard of cash in denominations ranging from banded bricks of $1,000 and $500 bills to armloads of piddling 5s and 1s. They cram all they can into a suitcase, big satchels, and some duffels. The bags are so heavy they must be half dragged to the crew's stolen panel van, a getaway choice perfect for its lack of side or rear windows. It's ready at the curb, waiting. The men are giddy, excited and fearful all at once. The load they've plundered is far beyond expectation. Suddenly, their prospects are unimaginable, their possibilities endless, and they can feel it deep down. Better than sex, this is. The men leave behind nearly as much as they steal, but only because they didn't bring more bags. No matter. The plan is to bury or otherwise hide any loot that can't be easily fenced. If it's bulky or if it glitters and shines for attention, well, jewels may be the stuff dreams are made of, but not theirs. Cash is their god, the almighty folding green. They'll wait for the fancy goods to be fenced, turned into another big payday. That has always been the plan, to take all they can, then get gone, put serious distance between them and Providence. The same morning at their hideout east of the city, the men make an excited, scrambling count of the stolen cash. They don't bother to count the 5s and 1s. That's not even chump change. One of the boxes, just one of 146 the crew ransacked, spilled out $660,000. For now, $64,000 goes into each of 11 doubled-up brown paper grocery bags. 8 for them, 3 for men in the background. Another $5,000 goes to a bit player. Months pass before all of the crooks understand the consequences of what they have done. By then it's too late. The most valuable swag, the glittering hardware, has vanished, and not below ground. Some of the men are furious. Some take it in stride. All of them go low and stay that way. Among headline-grabbing U.S. robberies of its time, the bonded vault heist has few rivals. The March 1972 theft of $30 million in cash and valuables from the United California Bank of Laguna Niguel, California, comes close. But that job took place over the course of 3 nights, and most of the loot was quickly recovered. The bonded vault robbery takes less than 90 minutes, and none of the plunder is ever recovered. None. Not a diamond or a pearl. Nothing. The Providence heist should go into the history books as faster, bigger, bolder, glitzier, and, with the probable exception of the art thefts from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston in 1990, among the most notorious of the century. But it is not, because even today, more than 40 years on, mention of the robbery in the wrong places can stop conversation. The heist remains a threat to some people, an embarrassment to others, even the career thug who led it, a hard guy known as Deuce. In the rising heat of the August morning, he walks through the front door as if he owns the joint. Minutes later he does, hostages and all. He hit Rhode Island on the run, an escaping jailbird looking for his best friend, and found himself roped into the bonded vault job. By the time he knew what the gig was, he couldn't have backed out if he had wanted to. But that's Providence for you. Anything can happen in Providence. Chapter 2. The gunman's given name is Robert J. Dussault from Lowell, a hard-scrabble city of faded glories just up the road in Massachusetts. He stands 5 feet 11 inches, but seems considerably taller. His shoulders are broad and beefy, hair black, eyes hazel and deep-set, face wide and lightly scarred on the right, nicked twice on the left. A thick mustache shades his upper lip, and his jaw is square. His knuckles are scarred and calloused. His frame is tapered, hardened with purpose, and he carries himself as though balancing big chips on both shoulders. A jailhouse cross is tattooed on his right hand, and on his right arm is a single word, Duce. In Italian, the word is pronounced Duce, as in Il Duce, which was Mussolini's nickname and means leader. The guy isn't big on spelling, or maybe he is and just likes the wordplay, whatever. Every tough guy has a street name. Sometimes it's apropos of nothing, just a way to say a guy's name without announcing his real identity. More often, it's because you never know who might be looking for him. This man's friends call him Deuce. About a month before the heist, late in the afternoon of a hot and humid day in mid-July, he is drinking hard in the bar of one of Boston's oldest and most popular restaurants, Jacob Worth on Stewart Street. He's tucked behind a far table, his back to the wall, his eyes on the front door. He is doing his best to be inconspicuous. He has a small white business card that he has handled so much that the lawyer's name on it is barely readable. Deuce is running, and the lawyer is an important man helping to get him out of Boston and to a hideout in Rhode Island. Supposedly it will be no problem, because the lawyer is said to be about as crooked as the mafia clients he represents, but that's always the knock on defense lawyers. Still, it worries Deuce. He isn't big on trust to begin with, and he has an irrational hatred of Italians, especially the Italians in Rhode Island. Deuce believes they are the most arrogant and treacherous bastards he has ever known. He has made his living stealing stuff whenever he feels like it, while making it a point to steer clear of anything of potential interest to la Cosa Nostra. His vocation has earned him plenty of time in jail, off and on for about 17 of his 34 years, in fact, but at least he still is in one piece. He is so institutionalized he has never learned how to drive. All of his jobs have had a designated wheelman. Deuce's major assets are an outdated sense of daring-do, fast hands, and a quick lip. He can outsmile and out-talk most people who get paid to do it for a living, and you'd be hard put to find a bigger or more effective liar anywhere. When it comes to old-fashioned smash-and-grab robbing, Deuce can hit a supermarket, coin shop, jewelry store, or small bank and leave minutes later with more money than most people earn in a couple of months or more. He usually goes in naked, which is to say without a mask, eyewitnesses be damned. Deuce is fast. He has balls, and when it comes to cool during a hold-up, there is ice where his blood should be. He uses a gun only when necessary, because he knows the fall for armed robbery is longer and harder than for robbery unadorned. Just as often, he can pull a quick job pretending that he's armed while hollering loud enough to frighten anyone in his way. If that doesn't work, he can usually punch and push his way in and out. The best scenario is to have a partner who is armed. Let him worry about the law. For 3 days, Deuce holed up in a room at the Charles River Motel over on Soldiers Field Road, which was okay, because most of the time he was fucking his brains out with one of his old girlfriends. Now that it's time to move, all he can do is stay out of sight in the bar, sit tight, and wait. He's not awfully good at it. He is uncomfortable, all twitchy inside his skin, and more than a little worried. Deuce turns the business card over and stares at it as though the little thing has secrets to reveal. The card's face bears only the lawyer's name and a phone number. He marvels that something so little could mean so much. Yesterday he called the number and told the lawyer he needed to meet up with his best friend, Charles Chucky Flynn, the sort of man you want only as a friend. Chucky is good-looking, with light brown curly hair and a soft voice that he usually keeps at a low, almost shy monotone, but his face is hard, and so are his piercing blue eyes. Chucky is a thief and a killer, and he is explosively violent. It has long been rumored, though never proven, that years earlier, when a girlfriend sassed him in the back seat of a speeding car, he threw open the door, pushed her out, and held her by one ankle while her head bounced into pulp on the roadway. Most people doubt the grisly story. Police insist they'd know if it really happened. Regardless, Chucky benefits. He is feared all the more. Flynn is obsessive about personal cleanliness, but his reputation links even that to his toughness. Supposedly, a cooperative prison guard turned his head one evening so that Chucky could dive unseen into the back of a dump truck loaded with days-old loose garbage. The truckload of offal is a nightmare machine for Flynn, but he stays buried in it for mile after mile. The truck conveniently stops at a rest area, and Chucky climbs out. He hides in the woods, finds a stream in which to wash away the stink of garbage, and then strikes out on his own. People who know him say the tale itself is garbage. Chucky is always well-groomed and neatly dressed, and it is well known that he washes his hands countless times a day. It also is true that when he really dislikes someone, he calls him Jermy. Deuce sometimes kids Chucky about the hand-washing, tells him he's just trying to wash away the blood of people he has beaten or killed, but he doesn't do it often. The lawyer Deuce called told him to call him back in the morning, so earlier today that's what Deuce did. The lawyer gave him 2 telephone numbers, neither of them for Chucky Flynn. Both are for John Ouimet, a garrulous, clever thug in Rhode Island who, during the long law-enforced absence of his elder and much nastier brother Jerry, is the titular head of a renegade crew of about 20 thieves, loan sharks, leg-breakers, killers, and extortionists who owe their souls and a share of their substantial monthly take to the notorious Patriarcha. The Ouimets, especially Jerry, want dearly to be legitimate mafiosi, welcomed by La Cosa Nostra with open arms and a kiss on both cheeks while swearing omerta, the oath of absolute silence about the mob's affairs, even as a prayer card burns to an ember in their outstretched hands. That will never happen, no matter what they do for Patriarcha's crime family. That door is forever closed because their mothers were not Italian. When the Ouimet's story is written, it will say they were just supplicant bad guys, backed by a crew of motley and feral wannabes. Basta. From the motel earlier in the day, Deuce calls the first number the lawyer gave him for Ouimet. The guy who picks up immediately says, "I can't talk, this phone is bugged." Then he breaks the connection. Deuce holds the receiver at arm's length and looks at it, mystified. He slams the phone down, muttering and cursing, and leaves the motel, walking off steam, talking to himself, trying to figure out who would be dumb enough to knowingly use a bugged phone to take a call from a runner, a fugitive like him. When he calms down, he goes back to the motel and calls John Ouimet again, this time at the second number the lawyer gave him. Ouimet tells him to go to Jacob Worth's and wait. He says his cousin will pick him up in a few hours. Could be worse, Deuce figures. At least he wasn't told to stand outside holding a sign with his name on it. Chapter 3.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?